Back to December 1987. So, in Munich, it would be Stefan, our guitar player, the guy at the beginning of the story, the one who dragged me out the 21st of October 84 concert, Frank, our bass player, Vero, the singer, plus three of our mates, William, Bruno and Jackie. And to end 1987 on a high note, Christoph and I did get a greetings card from Steve. I immediately recognised his handwriting on the envelope. So often I read it on the back sleeve of the Soundhouse tapes. It's one of the jewels in my collection, and there were to be many more to come. End of January 88, we had to make the most of the forthcoming weekend, so we left at the small hours. I had planned to bring along the coolest vinyl records of my collection to have them signed, plus a West Lord t-shirt for Steve, in case he should need a rag to clean his windshield. Because okay, we couldn't play, but we had t-shirts, handmade by a friend of mine called Fufu, and a few bottles of champagne as well. GPS didn't exist back then, so we had to MacGyver our way to the place, and I don't remember us having any real difficulty reaching the destination. The Michelin map led us to Munich. When we got in town, we stopped at the first phone booth, and since it came equipped with a directory, which is a book, and you can find all the addresses and phone numbers in this or that city of a given region, in alphabetical order. We found out the name of the street of the Arabella Hotel, and we tore the page. Then a cab driver told us how to get there as quickly as possible. It was obviously a well-known hotel, and every person we asked for directions had no problem telling us the way. Once we'd arrived at the hotel reception desk, we had the guys there call Steve, and they sat us in the lobby to wait for him to come down. My mate William confessed to me after reading these pages that he had thought we would never meet Steve, that all of this was nothing but an enormous prank, and that he had only come out of curiosity. He was in for a surprise. I remember the waiting was unbearable. It felt like my heart was going to burst inside my chest. But after all, hadn't we done everything possible to reach that moment? We now had to face our hero, and that was quite something. But things can get worse in a man's life. And then he came. He was wearing a blue tracksuit, and he was just your average man, blending into the coming and going of people in the hotel hall. His hair, a bit longer than the classical and rather select customers of the place. He definitely had, "Hey guys, this is the weekend," written all over him, and it was nice to see him looking quite differently from the rock star everybody knows. I hope he'll forgive me if he ever reads this, but the first thing which struck me was his size. I was expecting some superhero-sized colossus, which is how you see him on stage or on the posters, some kind of Superman with his cape and tight pants, an Alcor or Lacturus, for those of you who know these brands. None of this. Our Iron Man was just your average man with long hair, just like any guy whose hairdresser is in jail. It's probably me. I must be too tall, as that bitch Christoph always says about me. Out of envy, without a doubt. For Christoph is so short that the first time I saw him, I thought he was far away. Steve was a peach from the very first minute, shaking hands with each of us. "Hi, nice to meet you." He seemed pleased to meet us indeed, but not as delighted as we were. Introductions having been made, and warmly so, he told us he had booked 2 suites for us at the hotel, and he led us up there. Up we went to the 12th floor. Now that these warm introductions had been made, we spent a little time chatting in the lobby. Then he asked us where we had planned to sleep. We answered that each of us had a sleeping bag and that we would spend the night in the cars. It was January, so he told us in a very bossy tone that that was out of the question, and he went and booked 2 suites in the hotel for us. Once he had done so, he offered to lead us there himself. We couldn't believe what was actually happening, up to the 12th floor. I clearly remember standing in his lift, so narrow. We were all really close to each other, including him, thinking, fuck, here I am in a Palace Hotel with Steve Harris, and he is actually leading me to the suite he has booked for me and my mates. Even in their wildest dreams, or even on drugs, no fan could possibly imagine something like this. Even now, it still gives me goosebumps when I think about it. When we got to our suites, he explained that his wife and him must attend their children's dinner, and then tuck them to bed. And he tells us to meet him at the reception around 6:30 to have dinner together. So we made ourselves comfortable. We weren't even 20, and here we were in a palace, paid for by our hero. How fucking awesome it was to be there. At 6:30 sharp, we met him downstairs. He was waiting for us with his wife, Lorraine. They looked gorgeous. Introductions and stuff, and off we dashed to a neighbouring bar for a few pre-dinner drinks. As we got in, the background music immediately drew my attention, because it was Etienne by Getch Patty, a French song. From that day on, I've had chills running down my spine every time I've heard that song on the radio. I'm actually listening to it right now as I'm writing, as a way of getting back in the mood. That's what you call an anchor point, or so they say. Great mood, open bar, everybody was in their high spirits, and in spite of our rather basic English, we managed to communicate all right. We started to feel quite laid back. Lorraine left for a few moments to make sure everything was fine with the children. I suppose there was a nanny in charge up there. Steve told her to meet us at the restaurant. He suggested Chinese. We approved, but to be honest, had he proposed butter on toast and hotel rooms, we would have been delighted all the same. You're a prick when you're a kid, but it feels so good. The Chinese place was right next door to the hotel. Lorraine joined us and the waiters brought the menu. It was all written either in Chinese or in German, and Steve spoke neither, so he ordered everything that was on the menu. You mean the whole fucking menu? Hell yeah. That's the way you do it when your name is Mr. Steve Harris. At once, Chinese men arrived and reorganised the whole room. We had this room exclusively for ourselves, in fact. Then they bought dozens of dishes, which they put on a nearby table, and honestly, I'd never seen the like of it. We ate and drank like princes, even better, talking about this and that. We gave them little gifts we had bought for their children, like teddy bears and the like. When the gigantic feast was over, Steve made a point of paying the bill. We tried to protest, but let's face it, even if we had shared it between the 8 of us, we could never have afforded such a feast. So Steve paid for everything and told us to meet him in our suite 30 minutes later, because he said he had a surprise for us. A surprise? Another? But it's been one surprise after another, right from the start. How could there possibly be another in store?